Part 2. But now the teacher's patience had absolutely come to an end. She told all the children to go out into the playground because she wanted to have a talk with Pippi on her own. When the teacher and Pippi were left alone, Pippi stood up and walked to the teacher's desk at the front. "Do you know something?" she said. "I mean, do you know something, miss? It was ever so much fun coming here to see what you get up to, but I don't think I'll bother coming to school again. Never mind about the Christmas holidays. There are far too many apples and igloos and snakes and things. It makes my head dizzy. I hope that doesn't upset you, miss." But the teacher said she actually was upset, mostly because Pippi didn't want to try and behave properly. And no girl who carried on like Pippi would be able to go to school however much she wanted. "Have I behaved badly?" asked Pippi, shocked. "I really didn't know that," she said, looking very sorrowful. No one could look as sorrowful as Pippi could when she was sad. She stood silently for a while and then said in a trembling voice, "You see, miss, when you have an angel for a mum and a South Sea Island king for a dad, and you've sailed around on the ocean all your life like me, then you don't really know how to behave in school among all those apples and igloos." Then the teacher said that she realised that, and she wasn't upset with Pippi any longer, and that perhaps Pippi could come back to school when she was a little older. And then Pippi said, beaming brightly, "Oh, miss, I think you're so kind, and this is for you, miss." And from her pocket, Pippi pulled out a lovely little gold watch, which she lay on the teacher's desk. The teacher said that she couldn't accept such a valuable gift from Pippi, but Pippi only said, "Yes, but you must. Otherwise I'll come back again tomorrow, and a fine spectacle that would be." Then Pippi dashed out to the playground and leapt onto her horse. All the children jostled around to pat the horse and watch her leave. "Give me the schools in Argentina any day," Pippi said, showing off. "That's the place to be. There the Easter holidays start 3 days after all the Christmas holidays are finished. And 3 days after the Easter holidays is time for the summer holidays. The summer holidays end on the 1st of November, and then, of course, it's a struggle waiting for the Christmas holidays to start on the 11th of November. But you can put up with it because there's no homework. Homework is strictly forbidden in Argentina. Now and then some Argentinian child sneaks into a wardrobe and sits there in secret doing their homework. But pity them if their mum finds out. There's no arithmetic at all in the schools over there, and if any kid knows what 7 and 5 is, they have to stand in the naughty corner the whole day. And if they're stupid enough to tell the teacher, that is. They only have reading on Fridays, and that's only if there are any books to read from. But there never are." "But what do they do in school then?" a little boy asked. "They eat sweets," Pippi declared. "A long pipe runs directly from a sweet factory close by and straight into the classroom. And sweets, they just sort of simply shoot out all day. So the children have more than enough to do eating sweets." "Yes, but what do the teachers do?" asked a girl. "They take the wrappers off the sweets for the children, you ninny," said Pippi. "You don't think they do that themselves, do you?" "I should say not. They don't even go to school themselves. They send their brother." Pippi waved her large hat. "Cheerio, kids," she yelled gleefully. "You won't be seeing me for a while. But always remember how many apples Axel had, or you'll be sorry." With a resounding laugh, Pippi rode out of the playground so fast the gravel whirled around the horse's head and the school windows rattled. Okay, next chapter is called Pippi Sits on a Gate Post and Climbs a Tree. Pippi, Tommy and Annika were sitting outside Villa Villacula. Pippi was on one gate post, Annika on the other, and Tommy was sitting on the gate. It was a beautiful warm day at the end of August. A pear tree next to the gate had branches growing so low down that the children could sit and pick the best yellowy pink pears with no trouble at all. They munched and spat the pear cores into the lane. Villa Villacula stood just where the small town finished and the countryside began, and where the street became a main road. The people of the town greatly enjoyed strolling out as far as Villacula because it was in the prettiest part of town. As the children were sitting there eating pears, a girl came walking along the street from the direction of town. When she caught sight of the children, she stopped and said, "Have you seen my dad go past?" Said Pippi. "What does he look like?" "Does he have blue eyes?" "Yes," said the girl. "Medium height? Not too tall, not too short?" "Yes." "Black hat, black shoes?" "Yes, exactly," said the girl. "No, I haven't seen him," Pippi declared. The girl looked disappointed and turned away without a word. "No, wait a minute," said Pippi. "Is he bald?" "No, of course he isn't," the girl said crossly. "Lucky for him," said Pippi, and spat out a pear core. The girl hurried off, but Pippi shouted after her, "Did he have unusually big ears that hung all the way down to his shoulders?" "No," said the girl, turning round in surprise. "You don't mean you've seen a man walking past with ears that big?" "I've never seen a man walking with ears," Pippi said. "Everyone I know walks with their feet." "Oh, how stupid you are. I mean, have you really seen a man with such big ears?" "Nope," said Pippi. "No one has seen such big ears. That would be absurd." "What would it look like? You can't have ears that big, at least not in this country," she added, after pausing to think. "In China, it's a bit different. I saw one in Shanghai once, a Chinese man. His ears were so big he could use them like a cloak. When it rained, he tucked himself under his ears, and it was as warm and cosy as could be. Although not so much fun for his ears, of course. If the weather was particularly bad, he would invite his friends and acquaintances to join him under his ears, and there they sat, singing their mournful songs, waiting for the rain to go over. They were very fond of him because of his ears. Hai Shang was his name. You should have seen Hai Shang running to work every morning. He always came belting past at the last minute because he loved sleeping late in the mornings. You can't imagine how sweet it looked when he came running by with his ears like two huge yellow sails behind him. The girl had stopped walking and was listening to Pippi with her mouth wide open, and Tommy and Annika forgot all about eating pears. They were fully occupied with listening to Pippi too. He had more children than he could count, and the youngest was called Petter. "What? A Chinese child can't be called Petter?" Tommy interrupted. "Well, that's exactly what his wife told him. Chinese child can't be called Petter," she said, but Hai Shang was so incredibly stubborn that he said the kid was to be called Petter or nothing. And he sat down in a corner, pulled his ears over his head, and sulked. So then his poor wife had to agree, of course, and the kid was called Petter. "I see," said Annika. "He was the most contrary kid in the whole of Shanghai," Pippi continued. "He was so fussy with his food. He drove his mum to tears. You know how they eat swallows' nests in China? Well, there was his mum with a whole bowl full of swallows' nests ready to feed him. 'Here, little Petter,' she said, 'have one spoonful of bird's nest for Daddy.' But Petter simply clamped his mouth shut and shook his head. And in the end, Hang Shai was so angry that he said no more food was to be made for Petter until he had eaten one bird's nest for Daddy. And whatever Hang Shai said had to be done. The very same bird's nest was brought in and out of the kitchen from May to October. On the 14th of July, his mother begged to give Petter a couple of meatballs, but Hang Shai said no. "Rubbish," said the girl on the road. "Yes, that's just what Hang Shai said," continued Pippi. "Rubbish," he said. "Of course, the child can eat the bird's nest, if only we could stop being so awkward." But Petter kept his mouth tight shut from May to October. "Then how could he survive?" Tommy asked, astonished. "Well, he couldn't survive," said Pippi. "He died from absolute pig-headedness on the 18th of October. He was buried on the 19th, and on the 20th, a little swallow came flying in through the window and laid an egg in the nest on the table. So it came to good use anyway. No damage done," Pippi said merrily. Then she stared at the girl, who was standing there looking puzzled. "You look very odd," Pippi said. "What's up? You don't think I'm lying, do you?" "What? Come right out and tell me in that case," threatened Pippi, rolling up her sleeves. No, not at all," said the girl in alarm. I don't exactly mean you're lying. You don't, said Pippi. But that's exactly what I am doing. I'm lying so much my tongue's turning black, can't you tell? Do you honestly believe a kid can live without food from May to October? I mean, I know they can manage without food for 3 or 4 months, give or take, but from May to October? That's plain stupid. Surely you know that's a lie. You mustn't let people fool you into thinking any old thing. At that, the girl walked off and didn't turn around again. Oh, people can be so gullible, Pippi said to Tommy and Annika. From May to October, that's ridiculous. And she called after the girl. No, we haven't seen your dad. We haven't seen any baldies at all, not once all day. But yesterday, 17 walked past, arm in arm. Pippi's garden really was delightful. It wasn't well looked after, but there were lovely lawns that were never mown, and old rose bushes that were full of white and yellow and pink roses. Not the most beautiful, it's true, but they had the most wonderful scent. Quite a few fruit trees grew there too, and best of all, some very ancient oaks and elms that were perfect for climbing. The trees in Tommy and Annika's garden weren't the climbing sort, and their mum was always afraid they might fall out of a tree and hurt themselves. That's why they hadn't done much climbing in their time. But Pippi said, what about climbing up that oak tree? Tommy immediately hopped down from the gate, overjoyed at the suggestion. Annika wasn't quite so sure, but when she saw the big bulges on the tree trunk that you could step on, she also thought it would be fun to try. A couple of metres above the ground, the tree divided into 2 branches, and in between it was just like a little room. It wasn't long before all 3 children were sitting there. Over their heads, the oak spread out its canopy of leaves like a green roof. We could drink our coffee up here, said Pippi. I'll pop in and make a cup or 2. Tommy and Annika clapped their hands and cheered. It wasn't long before Pippi had the coffee ready, and there were buns that she had made the day before, and she stood below the oak tree and began flinging up the coffee cups. Tommy and Annika caught them, and sometimes the oak caught them, so 2 coffee cups broke. But Pippi ran indoors for some more, and then it was the turn of the buns, and for a long time the air was full of flying buns. And at least they didn't break. Finally, Pippi climbed up with the coffee pot in one hand, cream in a bottle, and sugar in a little box. Tommy and Annika thought coffee had never tasted so good. They weren't usually allowed to drink coffee, only when they were visiting. And now they were visiting. Annika spilled some coffee on her knee. First it was warm and wet, and then it was cold and wet, but that didn't matter, Annika said. And when they'd finished, Pippi sent the cups flying onto the grass below. I want to see how strong they make porcelain these days, she said. 1 cup and all 3 plates landed safely, remarkably enough, and the coffee pot only lost its spout. I'm going to stop there. There they are. All right, everybody. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.